Now remember, right now Ukraine, with 46 days of war in its country, has now being defined by haunting images. Let's begin and let's take you through what Ukraine looks like today. First is Bucha, because that is where the visuals which show you how police officers on the street are investigating areas where bodies were found, destroyed Russian tanks, debris from streets. All of this is now being cleared. And local residents also receiving aid from the soldiers. Russian troops continue to batter the city of Kharkiv. This visual will tell you about how the Russian forces launched another rocket attack on a residential area in Kharkiv. Civilians rushing to save their life. 5 meters deep crater was created at the site of the explosion. 7 people were rescued from apartments, 8 evacuated by the Ministry of Emergency Situations in Ukraine. The aftermath is what is being noticed now. The Kramatorsk railway station, where Russian troops launched an airstrike on Friday. 52 people at least were killed, 100 injured in this incident. Ukraine forces continue to take up the rescue work in the ravaged city of Borodenka, which is hit by non-stop bombardment. Employees of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine dismantle the rubble in Borodenka and clear the debris. Nearly 70 volunteers rescue over 200 victims. The department reported during the search, the body of 1 person was found. Showdown outside Russian consulate. Anti-war protesters holding a rally in front of the Russian consulate in Kazakhstan's Almaty. Visuals show police officials detaining activists in an effort to dissolve the protest. But thousands of people from Ukraine have fled the country since invasion started. Romania's Izakia town, where refugees continue to arrive by ferry over Danube. Even a school building in Kyiv region's Borodenka, after the Russian invaders left the region and advanced toward eastern Ukraine. This is what is left of a school building. We go across to the latest coming in from Kyiv and in Ukraine. Remember, Russia continues to intensify brazen attacks. It's the 46th day. Civilian evacuations are moving forward in patches of the war-torn country. That after there's been at a train station attack, killing 52 people at least. I want to now quickly go across to India Today's senior executive editor Gaurav Sawant, who knows the country now by hand. He's been traveling through every city to get us the latest on its aftermath. 46 days on, Gaurav, is the country exhausted? Do they, how are they preparing to continue? Because with so much aftermath to bear, what is Zelensky's plan to get this war halted? Gaurav?
So, Pooja, 2 aspects to this. One, yes. You're absolutely right. The country is exhausted. The people are exhausted, but they know that there is they're in for a long haul, because the battle will only intensify ahead. We were with a group of soldiers. They've fought extensively in the north of this country towards, Irpin, Bucha and Hostomel. They've been fighting there. They've just got 1 week's time to spend with their families. And now that 1 week is getting over, they are now heading for the Donbass region. I caught up with some of those soldiers yesterday, and while they're absolutely exhausted, many of them are injured in battle, but they know that there is a long war ahead. Yesterday, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, he was here in Kyiv. He's been actually walking the streets of Kyiv with President Zelenskyy. Of course, amidst very tight security in the Maidan area, in Krysiatik, where we were. And, Britain has promised a lot of military hardware, millions of dollars of military aid, economic aid, 130 armored personal carriers, 800 anti-tank guided missiles, and a lot of other military hardware is coming to this country. Again, an indication that this war is only set to intensify. There are more foreign fighters, we are told, who have also come in. Foreign legions that are being formed to fight in the north and yes, in the south and the east. We are told in Mariupol, and since we were interacting with a group of soldiers who are now headed in that direction, in Mariupol, the battles have been really fierce and intense, and artillery, armor and and rockets and missiles are being used extensively from both sides. And this is where Ukraine has made an impassioned plea for longer range missiles, for fighter jets and tanks to be able to fight Russia in the weeks ahead.
Gaurav, with the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's unannounced sudden surprise trip, do you think that will make any difference? And as we are running these visuals of Boris Johnson and Zelenskyy walking on the streets, taking a tour, do you think these photo ops will actually help Ukraine?
So, you know, it's symbolic. It's a show of solidarity,
yes.
And it's military hardware coming Ukraine's way. Yesterday, we interviewed an official in the government here who said that after the truth of Bucha, and that's Ukraine's perspective on the story, that after what happened at Bucha and Irpin and Hostomel and Bordyanka, and India Today was the first channel to get to Bucha and Bordyanka, after these images have come to light, the world has seen what's actually transpired, and the world should realize that only with defensive weapons they will not be able to fight the Russian armed forces in this country. What's happened at Bucha and Hostomel and at Borodyanka, what is likely to happen in the Donbass region could be worse. Okay. Mariupol has literally been shelled to the ground, as has Kharkiv to the east. So that is why they're saying, give us fighter jets, give us tanks, give us longer range missiles to be able to defend ourselves. Will that happen? Well, the Czech Republic has promised them some tanks, T-72s. Slovakia has given them an S-300 missile defense shield. And, you know, Pooja, the S-300, it's actually amazing the way military historians or aviation experts and analysts would look at this story. A Su-35, which is a 4.5 generation, one of the most advanced aircraft in the world, non-stealth, one of the most advanced aircraft in the world, was down near Kharkiv by Ukraine, and that's a Russian fighter jet. The pilot captured, and that shows that in case Ukraine has these S-300 systems, they can even take on very advanced fighter jets like the Su-35. So, you know, as far as military aviation is concerned, as far as war is concerned, perhaps some of the biggest and the deadliest non-nuclear weapons have already been used. For example, the Kinzhal hypersonic missile has been used already multiple times. And this is a missile that travels more than 6 times the speed of sound. That's been used by Russia. So, one unequal battle, but Ukraine continues to fight back.
Ukraine continues to fight back 46 days on. Gaurav, if comfortable for you, I would request you to please stay on for just another few minutes. Our Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan is joining us live now from Donetsk, because you've traveled this area and it comes with its own share of who's in control at this point. Donetsk leaves behind massive debris, rubble and destruction, Geeta. It will be a massive exercise for this region to be able to rebuild itself. What are you picking up from the location right now in Donetsk area?
Well, we are in Donetsk, but the whole Donbass region, Luhansk and Donetsk, are affected. And the entire battle is now moving eastwards from Ukraine, so westwards to Donbass. The entire region right now is facing a very fierce battle between the Ukrainian sides and the Russian Donetsk forces. Pooja, we have a lot of Donetsk, people from Luhansk who have signed up and are part of the military. There was a briefing yesterday in the United States of America that spoke of this eastern focus now, and what they are looking at is we're speaking to the top guys over here. Denise Pushelin, we spoke with, who's the leader of the so-called independent republic announced by Russia, the DPR, which is where we are right now. And he said that the areas that have been captured are not going to be given back, which means Volnovakha, Mariupol, Melitopol, Kherson, all these areas which they consider part of Donetsk and the larger Donetsk Oblast is not going to be given back, no matter what the negotiations are. So this region is going to see a lot of tensions despite and in spite of the negotiations and the talks that we are seeing. And even if there were a ceasefire, this border certainly will remain tense. And the areas that Gaurav was just speaking about has been razed to the ground. It is a terrible situation over there. It will require a long time to rebuild. But the only question is, who is going to do it? Is it going to be the Russian and Donetsk side, or will the Ukrainians be able to take hold of Volnovakha and Mariupol again?
Geeta, do tell us also about the human cost of war. We're talking about families destroyed. We're talking about children who are witnessing the worst, and the trauma is likely to stay on. But right now, are there civilians around? Are they returning in that area? What is the humanitarian crisis and its gravity there for the Donetsk region?
Well, let me put this in perspective, Pooja. The human cost of this war has been cannot be put in words or in quantity. In terms of what has happened, it's not quantifiable. The damage also not quantifiable, because we cannot talk only about damage of property. We have people who we see in Mariupol who have lost their future. A lot of people have lost their families. They have buried their loved ones right where they're living, because they had nowhere to go. Even before Bucha massacre and Bucha genocide or the mass graves were found, we were the first ones, Pooja, to go to Mariupol and discover mass graves. International media has not reached Mariupol right now, is the reason why it's not been highlighted. But we showed how people were left to die in the streets, how there are people, dead people in the streets, caught in the crossfire between Ukraine and the Russian side, and have nowhere to go. People who are living in Mariupol right now, most of them we spoke with, don't have a place to go, and that's why they're still living there. When we ask them, why haven't you left? They say they don't have a place to go, they don't have money, there's no system to withdraw, and there is no connectivity. So a lot of us, when we go there, they give us numbers, we come out. Our fixer here has been doing a lot of great work when it comes to connecting families. The children are living in Europe or abroad. They connect them and say that, okay, their parents are safe, but they're still in Mariupol. So situation in life, very difficult in Volnovakha and Mariupol, where there's no connectivity, and people are living, are in absolute dire straits there.
Well, absolutely terrible to hear what's been unfolding there in Ukraine. But Gaurav Sawant and Geeta Mohan from day one have been there in the war zone. India today depending on primary sources, not on secondary sources from anywhere else. But these are the two reporters who've been taking the risk to their life and getting you these ground reports. Thank you so much, Gaurav Sawant and Geeta Mohan, for all the latest. I'll come back to you shortly. Remember, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Saturday on an unannounced trip to the war-torn East European country. Now, the British Prime Minister discussed providing war-torn country with a financial and a military aid. What does that mean? Till when can it be expected for Ukraine as the war is into its 46th day? Take a look at this special report on the international ramifications and dialogues.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, one of his staunchest backers, in Kyiv on Saturday. Johnson's visit to the Ukrainian capital was not announced in advance and comes as Russia is amassing troops in the east of the country after pulling back from the outskirts of Kyiv last week. The British leader announced on Twitter that the goal of the visit is to set out a new financial and military aid package for Ukraine against, quote, Russia's barbaric campaign.
I want to begin, Volodymyr, by saluting once again the bravery of the people of Ukraine in defying the appalling aggression that we have seen.
Earlier in the day, Zelenskyy met Austrian Chancellor Karl Mayhammer, warning in a joint news conference of a tough battle ahead.
I would like to say that yes, Russian forces are being gathered in the east and south. A large amount of forces, equipment, armed people who are preparing to occupy yet another part of our territory. This will be a tough battle.
The meetings come just a day after officials say more than 50 people, including children, were killed in a missile strike on a railway station in the Donetsk city of Kramatorsk in eastern Ukraine. Many more were injured among the 4,000 said to be waiting to be evacuated away from the fighting. Ukraine said it was aiming to establish up to 10 evacuation corridors for civilians in the east. Russia's defense ministry denied responsibility, saying in a statement the missiles that struck the station were used only by Ukraine's military and that Russia's armed forces had no targets assigned in Kramatorsk on Friday. Reuters was unable to verify the details of the attack. The civilian casualties have triggered a wave of international condemnation, in particular those in the town of Bucha, just northwest of Kyiv, that until last week was occupied by Russian forces. Officials have said that 360 civilians were killed. Reuters could not independently verify those figures. Rescue workers in Borodyanka, less than 40 miles northwest of Kyiv, spent Friday digging through rubble for survivors. Local resident Maria recalled the horror to Reuters.
For 36 days, people lay under the rubble and the Russians fired, not allowing people to be pulled out from under the rubble.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who toured the wreckage in Bucha Friday, said on Saturday the Commission will pledge €1 billion to support Ukraine and countries receiving refugees fleeing the war.
For the European Commission, that we want to pledge €1 billion.
Zelenskyy continues to demand tough sanctions on Russia from the West.
They have to do everything to force Russia to seek peace.
Russia's invasion, which began on February 24th, has forced more than 4 million to flee their homes, turned cities into rubble, and killed or injured thousands. Russia has denied targeting civilians in what it calls a special operation to demilitarize and denazify its southern neighbor. Ukraine and Western nations have dismissed this as a baseless pretext for war. Moscow's sights are said to be set on gaining full control of Donetsk and Luhansk, the regions partly held by Russian-backed separatists since 2014.
Situation is not getting better in Ukraine. Now, more than 50 people, many of them reportedly children, have been killed by a ballistic missile which hit a railway station in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk. Now, the foreign minister has called the attack a deliberate slaughter by Moscow. But Kremlin is denying responsibility on this attack. Take a look at what unfolded at this train station. Absolutely horrific coming in.
In eastern Ukraine, dozens of people, including some children, were killed on Friday in what the authorities said was a missile strike on the railway station. Many more were injured among the 4,000 said to be waiting to be evacuated away from the fighting. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy was quick to condemn the attack. Ukraine says Russia is focusing its efforts and regrouping in the east after withdrawing from Kiev's outskirts. Moscow's sights are said to be set on gaining full control of Donetsk and Luhansk, the regions partly held by Russian-backed separatists since 2014. Ukraine said it was aiming to establish up to 10 evacuation corridors for civilians in the east, and for those in the south, like the tens of thousands in the battered port of Mariupol, who remain trapped without power and dwindling supplies. On the ground around Kiev and in Bucha on Friday was the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen offering reassurance of Ukraine's bid for EU membership, but also expressing shock and horror at the alleged war crimes committed against civilians by Russian forces in the town.
The whole world is mourning with the people of Bucha. And they are the ones who are, as you said, defending the border of Europe, defending humanity, defending democracy, and therefore we stand with them in this important fight.
In Borodyanka, less than 40 miles northwest of Kiev, families have been waiting patiently as diggers search through the rubble of their half-destroyed apartment blocks. President Zelenskyy said the situation there eclipses the horrors even of Bucha, where the alleged killings of civilians by Russian forces have been widely condemned by the West as war crimes.
The work to clear the rubble in Borodyanka has begun. It's significantly more dreadful there. Even more victims from the Russian occupiers. And what will happen when the world learns the whole truth about what the Russian military did in Mariupol? There, on almost every street, is what the world saw in Bucha and other towns in the Kyiv region after the withdrawal of Russian troops. The same cruelty, the same terrible crimes.
Zelenskyy offered no further detail or evidence that Russia was responsible for civilian deaths in the town. Russia denies targeting civilians and says images of bodies in Bucha were staged to derail peace negotiations and to justify more international sanctions. Ukraine's Prosecutor General Irina Venediktova.
In the Kyiv region, we find in Kyiv region Makariv, Borodyanka, Bucha, Hostomel, Irpin, we found 650 dead bodies. From them, it is 40 dead bodies, only kids.
Reuters could not independently verify those figures. Ukrainian negotiator Mikhailo Podolyak said in televised comments on Friday both sides were constantly talking together online, but that the mood had changed since events in Bucha. Meanwhile, Russia gave its most somber take yet on the 6-week-long war in Ukraine, describing rising troop losses, slow progress, and the economic pain of sanctions. On Thursday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov lamented the death toll, saying Russia had suffered significant losses of troops, adding, "It is a huge tragedy for us." On Friday, Peskov again said what Russia calls its special operation in Ukraine could end in the foreseeable future since its aims were being achieved.